Welcome to Innovating Clinical Trials, the podcast designed for clinical research professionals eager to deepen their understanding of clinical trials through concise, insightful segments. Join your hosts, Liam Eves and Ted Trafford, as they uncover the core issues in clinical research, reflect on the industry, and challenge conventional wisdom.
Like one of the things, Frank, that just on this thread is that when we were speaking to a few people, they were saying like your ability to balance, to Ted's point, like personal and professional, and just get so much stuff done is like remarkable. Like you've obviously mentioned that like having a great team is super important, and you've got your systems from your operating principles and things like that. Like how do you go about doing as much as you do, but being so balanced and such a chilled person? Like it's just remarkable. I'm looking for the elixir there, Frank. you can help me.
I actually track my work days,
Right.
Okay. And I'm embarrassed to say that I worked 340 days last year.
Right.
But most of those days were not 8-hour days.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So it really, for me, what works is sort of working continuously because there's always things coming up, but fitting other things in around it. For example, I live in Park City, Utah, and I'm not spilling any secrets because my team knows this. I sneak out sometimes in the morning and ski, right?
Yeah.
I'll be on the slopes and get first run, get a couple hours in, not this winter because the winter was so terrible, but, and then, by 11 o'clock, I'm back at the office working. And then I might work until 7 o'clock at night, or take a break in the afternoon and work in the evening. And that works for me, right? I travel a lot for work, I don't know, 180 days a year, probably on the road.
Wow.
And I frequently will tack on a day or two of vacation at the end of one of those trips if I'm somewhere next week. So but that's what works for me. I have a lot of staff who have young kids, right? That wouldn't work for them. But what does work for them is that ability to take the afternoon off or to take a couple hours off in the middle of the day to take their kids to the doctor's office, right? And I think when you give people flexibility and you treat them like adults, right? It relieves a level of stress. It doesn't mean the team isn't working hard, right? The team works extremely hard, but they're able to, I think, for the most part, able to fit their lives in around that work, or their work around their lives, probably is the better way of putting it.
Makes sense. Yep. So you mentioned the Monday emails that you send out.
Yeah.
And the monthly, like all hands meetings. What are the other, really big recurring either meetings or rituals that are things that you've just built in? This is what we're going to do, and it's going to be consistent.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of meetings. Also, one of our operating principles: make meetings matter.
Okay.
So meetings, we try and minimize. They're an inevitability, but we do try and minimize them. But there are other little things like I meet with every employee at the company when they first join the company. Usually somewhere around 8 weeks in, you have a one-on-one with the CEO. And I've been doing that since, we were 5 people. And that's an opportunity for me to get to know them and then to get to know me and to kind of flatten out the organization, right? I think there's this perception that Frank is this, high and mighty CEO, and I'm just like everybody else, right? And then, one of my mentors is this wonderful retired Lieutenant General Rick Lynch, and has written a number of leadership books. And we were talking, and one day he said, how often do you talk to your staff? And I said, well, it depends on the person. He said, you got to change that. But he gave me a piece of advice to talk to an employee somewhere in the company every day. So I have a 15-minute conversation with. I don't think it's random. I don't understand the logic, but we have someone at the office who schedules these. But it gives me an opportunity to, keep my fingers on the pulse of the organization. I think that's really important. When we get together, which, as a remote organization is not all that often, when we get together, we like to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. And that comes all different kinds of flavors and variety. But half of the reason that we get together as a remote organization is to have fun and to build social capital, right? I think Zoom is great for running a business. You get a lot done, Zoom or teleconference or WebEx or whatever you use, right? But you can't build social capital. I had I think an interesting experience when I first joined Amgen. I was living in Switzerland. I was working for their international commercial operations, but most of the people that I worked with were in California, and I didn't know any of them.
Right.
And I joined the company and I could not get anything done, right? And it took me a while to figure out that was because I didn't know any of them, right? And so I started coming to California, spending 1 week a month in California, having lunch with people, having dinner, having coffee, just getting to know them at a human level. And it made all the difference in the world in my ability to do my job, or for us to do our jobs together. And I still remember that. And so, we have these sort of opportunities for folks to get together and have fun together, whether that's, team building exercises or meals together, or, some of us like to drink together. Those sorts of things that how you build social capital, which then really helps facilitate, the work getting done over time.
Yeah, I love that, Frank. I'm massively mindful of your time, but one question. Well, I'm going to sneakily 2 questions from me, and before I hand over to one is what is to be a better leader? Do you have one piece of advice that people could go away and take away an action now? And then the second question is that you've mentioned a load of books here. You're clearly a guy who obviously reads a lot, learns and develops. Is there one particular book that has helped you the most through your career from a leadership perspective?
Oh boy. Let's see. On the second one, that's a really interesting question. And there are lots of good books out there, right? And I think the challenge is sort of sorting out the wheat from the chaff. I think Turn the Ship Around is a phenomenal leadership book. Mike Milano, another friend of mine, retired Army general, wrote a book called Large and in Charge No More. That's all about vulnerability and leadership. I think that's a very impactful book for me. And Rick Lynch's Adapt or Die, I think is a terrific leadership book. All 3 of them I think are worth reading. I'll give you a slightly different aspect to leadership. I think on being a better leader, that's a tough one, right? Because leadership, I think, is not something that you learn. Right? Management is something that you can learn. Leadership is not something that you learn except through doing.
Yes.
And a lot of it comes down to who you are as a person inside. Do you have character and integrity? Are you a trustworthy person? Do you care about the people that you work with? Right. And if you don't have those things, you're not going to be a good leader. I firmly believe that, right? Because it gets back to what I started out with, right? You have to earn loyalty. And if you're not a trustworthy person, if you're not a good person, if you don't have the right kind of values, no one is going to be loyal to you. No one is going to trust you.
Right? I think it's such a good answer, because I think that's why I think frequently we see individuals that can be great leaders but not great managers from an administrative. Management from an administrative. They can just excel through leadership, and people want to follow them because of all those reasons. So, but I love that sentiment of being able to earn loyalty, which is essentially, I guess, what leadership is, right? Is people are following you because you deserve their loyalty.
And in the defense of managers, management is also important too, right? Some leaders can be a little messy.
Yes.
I think I can be messy at times. So you need to have really good people around you to sort of manage the chaos.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think most organizations in the US and probably in the world are overmanaged and underled.
Right. What a great, that's a great.
Completely agree.
Love that.
Yeah, we're gonna write that out and put it up on the wall.
I don't think that's mine. I think I stole that from someone.
Well, okay.
I think it's very true.
We're all standing on the shoulder of giants.
Yeah. Okay. One final question from me.
Yeah.
and then we'll let you get to your day. So, what can you share with us about your vision for Arcutis moving forward? Like, you've had this incredible journey so far, and a lot of significant accomplishments. But where do you see Arcutis going in the next few years?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I think it all goes back to the first operating principle, right? We have the benefit of having a bunch of dermatology clinicians at the company, including several who still practice on a regular basis, and that allows us to have a really deep understanding of the challenges that dermatology clinicians and the people that they're treating are struggling with, right?
Right.
And so it all has to start from there. Our mantra at Arcutis is meaningful innovation. People ask me, well, what's meaningful innovation? It's innovation that somebody cares about, right? You can innovate all day long, but people may not, want it. And the example I frequently use is I think it was plaid mode in the Tesla S. You go to 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Well, that's innovative, but who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Who needs to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, right? That's not a meaningful innovation. So we really are focused on what are the problems that our customers are facing, the clinicians and the people suffering with inflammatory skin diseases are struggling with, and how can we solve them better, right?
Right.
And we intend to continue to do that, whether that's innovating around ZORYVE, and we're looking at what other uses we can find for ZORYVE, or it's new products. We just recently introduced a biologic product into the clinic, and I'm sure we'll be calling you Ted before too long for more work. And we're constantly looking for new products or new treatments that solve a problem that our customers are dealing with. And it's our intention to use the success that we've had to fuel the next wave of innovation. And you create this virtuous cycle where you're successful, that creates resources that you can invest in the next innovation that makes you even more successful, which creates more resources, and you spiral upwards. And that's our vision, is to become really the leading innovation-driven company in the dermatology sector.
Amazing.
I love it. So good.
Well, thank you so
Amazing
much.
that we started off with just 3 guys, right?
It's
Been a heck
incredible
of a journey.
Yeah.
Incredible. Really is. And so, Frank, where can people find out more, get in touch?
Arcutis.com is our corporate website. And then we have the product website for general public, ZORYVE.com. And we have a professional website, ZORYVEHCP.com for dermatology clinicians.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Frank. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Really a pleasure
wonderful
talking with you both. And Ted, always nice to see you. And Liam, nice to meet you.
Lovely.
Yeah, you too,
Thanks
Frank.
so much.
Yeah, have a wonderful day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.